Ladies and gentlemen, James Lane here, and welcome to 2020, the movie. And also welcome to Casual Sunday here at the American Reveille. As you can see, I'm sporting my tank top. I've got my chanclas, my chanelas, my flip-flops, ladies and gentlemen, and we are about to tackle the weird twists and turns that 2020 has been taking, but only in one aspect. And today we're going to be dealing with the poisoning death of one of the executive producers from Game of Thrones. And you guessed it, he was killed by the Chinese Communist Party, or at least through an agent of the Chinese Communist Party. And I'm going to explain exactly why. Ladies and gentlemen, James Lane here. How's your Sunday going? This is actually a second recording. The first one was probably a whole hell of a lot better, but unfortunately my computer is like half dead and on its last leg. I've got new parts coming tomorrow, and I'll be actually getting a receipt of all that and some videos and stuff put together, and I'll send that out to everybody that donated, because I used the $1,000 that had been donated to me by a couple dozen people, and I took $1,000 of my own money and I bought a bunch of parts to Frankenstein up this computer because it's literally on its last leg. So it had recorded the entire last the video segment of this. It recorded it like I literally did like a whole 25-minute thing, multiple takes. I mean, it was a big deal, and like 3 hours of work down the pooper. So we are back for a second round because I don't quit. You'd have to kill me to make me quit. I'm like a steamroller, baby. Lin Key, ladies and gentlemen, Lin Key is an executive producer on Game of Thrones, all right? He is one of the creators from a new Netflix series, all right? And he's dead at 39, and I'm not making this up. The bastard drank the Beijing tea. That's right, in Shanghai. Somebody poisoned his tea. We could write a sequel to Big Trouble in Little China out of this kind of crap right here. But there's a bigger picture. All right. He was going to face off with some Republicans over something. And you may be thinking, oh, well, what was it? The Republicans? Was it this or was it that? No, there's a big picture here. And we're in an actual battle, right? An ideological war, if you would, a cyber war, digital war. It's a hot war. It's a civil war in a lot of ways without actual physical violence in the tens and hundreds of thousands. We have a war of products, a war of ideas, a war of cultures, a war of different platforms. I'm on Parler. Other people are on Twitter. I mean, there's a giant struggle for territory going on. And the Chinese government is depending upon sentiment from the American people. You see, the more American people that hate what the Chinese Communist Party is doing, the harder of a time they'll have, regardless of who the president is, regardless if Biden steals it or if Trump comes through with the help of we the people and the mighty power behind him and crushes the system and drains the swamp. Regardless of what happens, if the Chinese are hated, not the Chinese people, but the Chinese Communist Party, the communist government, the Chinese people are good people. But if they are hated, the Chinese Communist Party, things become very, very difficult for them, especially when they're trying to wage a great reset and take over the world. So I want to go through this article a little. I want to talk a little bit about what's inside of it. We're going to have a little bit of fun. It's Sunday. Don't take this one way too seriously, but I think I make a couple good points, folks. So if you've enjoyed what we're doing so far, if you're looking forward to what you're about to see in this video, and if you're overall getting that warm and fuzzy feeling, do me a favor. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the notification bell. Leave a comment. Get ready. Keep going. Let's rock and roll. Lin Key, executive producer on Game of Thrones creators, new Netflix series. All right. He's dead. He's been poisoned. Bastard went to the hospital. Bastard is dead. I don't want to call him a bastard, but it sounded appropriate for this point of the story. Lin was executive producing The Three Body Problem adaptation alongside David Benioff and D.B. Weiss. You know them from Game of Thrones if you're a Game of Thrones fan. Lin Key, an executive producer on Game of Thrones. Creators David Benioff, D.B. Weiss, and they had an upcoming Netflix series. He's dead. He was 39. We've said that 100 times. Let's get through this article. Lin was the chairman and CEO of Yuzu Group, which he founded in 2009. The company was working with the TV creators on an adaptation of a science fiction series based on the Three Body Problem trilogy of novels by Chinese author Liu. I don't know how to say his last name, so I'm not going to butcher it. The company confirmed the news of its CEO's death in a statement. Lin was hospitalized on December 16th, and doctors quickly determined he'd been poisoned. He died on Christmas Day. This is starting to sound like a Jason Statham movie. At 5 p.m. on December 17th, 2020, the police received a call from a hospital regarding a patient surnamed Lin. During the patient's treatment, the hospital said it had been determined that the patient had been poisoned. Following the call, the police began an investigation. According to investigations on site and further interviews, the police found that a suspect surnamed Zhu had been responsible. He's a coworker of the victim. All right, he's the perpetrator. The suspect, Zhu, has been arrested. Investigations continue, end quote. Who knows if they continue? Who knows if he's under protection? Who knows if the government sent him? But I got a feeling, and it's not about tonight being a good night, ladies and gentlemen. The outlet notes that local Chinese media has reported there was a dispute among the Yuzu Group executives that preceded the poisoning event, which allegedly was carried out by the way of a cup of pu-erh tea that Lin drank. Now, pu-erh tea is a fermented type of tea, ladies and gentlemen. It is the tea version, the in-the-cup Chinese tea version of the kombucha drink that we have here, that some of us have once in a while, and then others drink way too much and like to brag about. Kombucha, you know, that stuff that tastes like fermented dog poop. He was drinking a cup of fermented dog poop tea, which I would think would be easy to hide the taste of poison in. I'm just saying. So he drank the tea, boom, ba boom, bada bing, down the freaking alley he went to the hospital and died there. No real details about the crime or the person police apprehended have been made available. Of course not, because it's the Chinese Communist Party. Oh, this guy has the weird eye thing like I have. Lin was working with Benioff and Weiss on an adaptation of the popular science fiction novels for Netflix. The Emmy winners announced they were on board the project in September as one of their first TV projects following the controversial conclusion of Game of Thrones in May 2019. The story revolves around humanity's first contact with aliens. Now, does this mean that he was going to reveal to the world that No, it doesn't mean that. We're not going down the realm of conspiracy theory on this. That's a coincidence. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry. Unless, you bring me credible, evidence. Unless Alex Jones knocks on my door and says, okay, all right, listen to me, James Lane. You got to understand the lizard people. And I got evidence. And, and then I have to give him a bottle of vodka and he's happy about it. And then he gives me the evidence. If that doesn't happen, which is not going to happen because I made it up in my brain and it's not real, this isn't going to happen. I don't believe it. I'm sorry. So don't go there. I'm trying to make a different point with this that has to do with communism, okay? Unless the aliens are communists, and in that case, we have a problem. And by the way, could you imagine that? Think about that. Imagine if aliens did come here, but they blasted over, they opened their hatch door and just the Russian national anthem is playing and just apparently old radio signals from Stalin and everything just went into outer space and reached their planet at some point and just had a heavy influence on them. So then they just, came to Earth to restart the Soviet Union. Okay, anyway, maybe I'll write a screenplay. Let's keep going. In August 2019, Benioff and Weiss signed a reported $200 million production deal. Could you imagine signing a $200 million deal? None of us can imagine that. With Netflix to exclusively make content for the streaming service. Representatives for Weiss, Benioff, and Netflix did not immediately respond to Fox News. Now, Here's the interesting thing about this that this news story isn't telling you, because I know a little bit about what's happening here. This gentleman here was associated with another guy named Liu, all right, who is the writer of these novels, okay? And Liu, he has very big ties, apparently, to the communist government of China, and the Uyghur humanitarian crisis that's going on there, all kinds of stuff. It raised a lot of red flags, a lot of questions, and a lot of Republican senators reached out and basically just reached out and condemned this deal. And it was putting a lot of pressure, putting a lot of things on hold. And also, this was a deal that Yuzu tried to make this happen in their own country. They tried to make these shows, and it just didn't happen. It was a big failure on their part. You can look it up. It's true. And so now they're kind of brokering the deal to Netflix, which is first a thing that kind of brings shame in the Chinese Communist Party type of mindset. But it also puts business out there. And what I mean by puts business out there is now that there are Republican senators fighting and the whole Uyghur thing that the Chinese communist government wants to keep hush hush, now that that's becoming more and more and more of a talking point, it really makes angry and negative and just downright bad press around the Chinese Communist Party. They don't want that. You see, you got to understand that they want the American people to not like them, but be indifferent to them, to think it's someone else, to think it's Russia, to think it's whoever else, so we can keep buying everything that's made in China. We support their country, and they support our addiction to buying cheap things with slave labor. Their people have to overthrow their government to fix the problems there. And it doesn't help. It doesn't help the Chinese Communist Party when we want to bomb them because they're killing the Uyghurs like Hitler killed the Jews, ladies and gentlemen. So there's a bigger picture here, and it's information warfare. It's a manipulation tactic. They killed this man through Zhu, the other guy, right? Who, remember, if you're doing business, if you're in a big production company, if you're in any business and you're in China, to do business with the rest of the world, you have to be part of the Chinese Communist Party. Only party members get to do business, and only do the bidding of the government, because that government can reach into your company. They see everything. They know everything. They shoot you directives. You saw from the last videos I did, all those directives that came out. That's the Chinese government letting different companies, the troll companies, the production companies, the social media companies, they're letting them know what they have to do, their guidelines, the Office of Public Opinion. You remember that? Their reach goes beyond China. They reached out in Shanghai, almost like a bad 80s movie, like Big Trouble in Little China. They reached out in Shanghai and tapped the executive of the same company that this guy was in to poison the tea of this man and kill him, so that we can remain indifferent to their humanitarian defilements, their humanitarian crisis, their genocide, their homicide, their detaining of innocent people, their attack on Christianity, their attack on peaceful Muslims, their attack on peaceful Christians, on Tibetans, on Mongolians. Make no mistake about it. The Chinese aren't our friends. And it goes so deep. It goes even into Hollywood, even into streaming services. Remember, the Chinese have infiltrated every facet. The Chinese communists have infiltrated every facet of Hollywood, of social media, of big tech, and in a lot of cases, parts of the U.S. government that we're supposed to trust, and elected officials, bought and paid for off the bloodied backs of the enslaved Chinese people. So, ladies and gentlemen, you need to pay attention to these things. It's not just a Jason Statham movie. It's not. We're not going to hook a car battery to our heart and then go find the cure to the Beijing cocktail. And it's not the Transporter movies where we're just going to find a Chinese woman tied up in the back of Jason Statham's trunk and go save the day. No, this is an infestation. We have cockroaches in our midst and we have termites in the wood. We need to fumigate. Plain and simple. It's time to fumigate. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed this episode, do me a favor, hit the subscription button, hit the notification bell, leave a comment. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, 5-star rating, please, please, please give us that 5-star rating and leave a review. Or if you hate what we do, you can talk some crap too. I'll be glad to respond to you. Do me a favor, head over to the website, www.americanreveille.com. Check out what we're doing there. That's Reveille, Reveille. That's where you can find all our videos, all of our articles, all of our writing, everything else. You can find links. You can join the contact page. We're working on a newsletter. We've got a lot of good stuff coming out, a new website coming out pretty soon, all kinds of great things, ladies and gentlemen. And if you feel really generous, if you want to give to our movement, if you want to give to the company that we're trying to grow, everything will be reinvested into the American Reveille movement so more people can hear the call of the American Reveille. More people can wake up and gain the tools that they need to be equipped to fight the left. Ladies and gentlemen, you can do that at www.americanreveille.com, Reveille. There's a donation tab, or you can email me for anything else. You have any questions, feedback, comments, concerns, you want to give me some info, you think you're on to something, you want to work on becoming an aspiring writer and write for me, you want to lend your services if you happen to have a skill set that we could use, HR, legalese, anything like that, programming, web design, things like that, artwork. I would love to hear from you. We are grassroots. We have no big name sponsors. We're doing everything by the check that I get from my day job, the donations that I get from you, ladies and gentlemen. Eventually we'll make some money, but I can guarantee you it won't be off your backs. I have a plan. I promise you that. And then we will use big portions of that to reinvest in we, the people. So ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate you. Thank you for standing shoulder to shoulder with me. Thank you for being patriots. We are the digital soldiers of this generation. We are holding the line and we will prevail.